at least part of the time after COVID-19. Remote working is a new standard right now. Lockdowns provided full-scale tests towards carbon neutral growth. The transplantation, the extension of the digital collaboration and communication will imply carbon reduction. For sure, from now on, a healthy planet is compatible with sustainable business. Jobs will be significantly transformed. I quite like the example in manufacturing to enable to help local maintenance teams service their machines with remote assistance. Actually, that happened recently in my husband's company with his German machine suppliers. According to the recent World Economic Forum, the Future of Jobs report published in October, new jobs will emerge and others will be displaced when redundant jobs will be mainly destroyed by automation. But as in 2018, the leading positions are still related to data management. It's about data analysts and scientists, AI and machine learning specialists, etc. So when it's about skills, the skills needed for the future jobs are skills that the machine cannot replace. It's about the first C's: critical thinking, creativity, communication, and collaboration. That involves a new trend for recruiters putting less pressure on diploma and higher emphasis on skills and experiences. It encourages the emergence of new models of education and schools that don't require or deliver diplomas. And again, their reputation by employers' recognition. In Tunisia, for example, the Holberton schools offers fast-track IT programs sought by employers. They have no diploma, no professors, and no pre-requirements from students. New educational systems emerge to fill up the gap that universities are leaving. They aim to be agile, problem-solving oriented, often specialized in AI and computer science. The need for upskilling and reskilling is growing, as we said since this morning. We expect that 50% of all employees will need reskilling by 2025. During this COVID crisis, Open Classrooms, for example, has seen the number of its followers increase by 40% in the last 14 months. In Africa, since there are 12 million young graduates arriving every year on the labor market, the traditional education system needs to evolve to be more inclusive and skill-proof oriented. Now, traditional actors partner with new players and technology platforms to create new educational offer, and we can talk about that a little bit more after on. Maybe as L&D professionals in Africa, it's important to think in terms of careers rather than in terms of future jobs. We need to think about how to prepare young African leaders for the future rather than graduate students for the workplace. There are 3 steps to prepare youth for the future: educate, re-educate, and re-educate. Educate because in the digital era, highly qualified people are more important than ever. Re-educate because we might consider going back to school to retain or to acquire new qualifications. And finally, re-educate for an effective upskilling that fits with a continuous changing modern life. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Amina. It was so interesting, and you give it to us like a guideline, you know, and the top points that we have to follow in the future of work from the point of view of the university. Thank you very much, Amina. Please, Myles. You have the ball and for the presentation.
Okay, thank you, Mehdi. I will present my screen now, and hopefully that will work.
I'm actually seeing the presentation of Amina still in the screen. Did you see also this, Amina?
She may have to deactivate. Okay, that's fine.
Right, I have.
Okay. Yes, Cedric, you want to add something? Please, Cedric, I hear your voice.
I just wanted to say that she may have to deactivate her presentation, but it has already been done.
She has already done. Thank you, Cedric. Thank you. Okay.
Okay, I'm going to share mine now. Hopefully you start to see this.
Not yet, but we will.
Okay, let's hang on for a moment.
Please. I'm actually seeing Amina on the screen. Yeah.
Amina looks better than my slides anyway, so hopefully that's good.
Yes, thank you. And we have also Edmund that joined us in the chat. So welcome, Edmund. We are now we've got the presentation of Amina, and now we are waiting for the presentation of Myles Runham, the second panelist of our breakout room number 5, the future of works.
Is it coming through yet?
Not yet, Myles. Probably because now we are seeing Amina. Amina, I think you are. What you see, Amina? You see the four participants of the breakout.
Not at all.
What do you see?
So maybe I have to leave and then coming back to. Yeah. So
yes,
I will try to leave and then come back.
You're welcome, Amina. Yeah. Thank you. Okay, that's fine, Amina. That's fine. Now, Myles, we can see your screen now. That's fine.
Okay.
Probably if you can just put it like in presentation mode, please, and put it in a full screen. So I think you have to double click on your windows and it will probably give us. Now we have Amina that's back on full screen.
I try to leave.
Okay.
Amina, can you hear me?
Yes.
Hi, it's Ed here. I think if when Myles is going to talk, if we turn our mics and cameras off and the bottom of the square there, then it should allow Myles' screen to be seen.
Okay, great tip. Thank you, Ed, for the advice. Now I think Amina, she has turned off the camera. So, Myles, what do you have in your screen? Do you have the 4 participants, or you have just?
I just have Amina. Now. I have just the image of Amina with the camera off.
Yes,
I'm not sure.
Now that's fine. Now it's fine.
Okay.
Yes.
So now I'm on present mode. Hopefully, is that you're seeing the full presentation screen?
Yes, please.
Can you see that now?
No, we still see your presentation, but not in the mode presentation. We see your thumb at the left and the title, the first slide.
Could you go into slideshow?
Yeah, I have. So I'm looking at the slideshow.
I think I can speak for everybody where we can see enough of it. Actually, if you wanted to just scroll down it, we can see it from there. Just thinking of time as well.
Yeah, no, that's right. We don't want to sort of.
Yes, please go ahead. Please go ahead, Myles. You've got the word. Yeah.
I'm just trying to now get back to my presentation, as my laptop is now frozen. Right. Okay. So I wanted to pick up on some of the themes that Ed mentioned earlier, and I think Amina has referenced these as well. Oh, drat! No, I've just stopped sharing.
Amina, if you can, please just turn off the camera, please.
Yes.
Thank you. And yes. Okay. Myles, did you hear us, Myles? Okay.
Yeah, I can hear you. I'm going to just try and put my presentation back on now.
Okay, that's fine. No problem, Myles. It's some technical issue that we have to face, but the most important it is for sure you will tell us about the main keys of your
I'm
your
hoping
presentation.
you can see that now, the first slide.
Yes, now we can see the slide. Yes, great. We have it, Myles. Great.
Right, I'm going to move. I will try. I'll go through this. Try to go quickly to allow time for questions. I wanted to talk about
Please go.
a few themes. So I'm going to focus on what I see as the important themes of the future of work from a digital perspective. That's my background, as you said, Mehdi, in the introduction. So it'll pick up on some of the themes that I know Ed was talking about earlier as well. And one of the things that I wanted to start by helping people think about is that whilst, as everybody said, we're going through unprecedented times, there's an enormous amount of change, particularly from the year of COVID and coronavirus. But actually, I think it's important to recognize that from a digital point of view, the forces that shape the change are actually, these have been happening for 20, perhaps 30 years. So it's really important to recognize that digital change is built on foundations of data and connection are really, really fundamental to successful digital experiences. And when we plan for how work will change, those will always be the foundations. But perhaps the most useful thing to remember all the time is user focus. And I think this came up earlier in some of the conversations, that the value of digital is not in the technology itself. It's in the use of the technology and what that can do for us as individuals and how we can service the needs of people as individuals, the needs of people in groups and communities, in teams as we work. It's really important to remember that, not to focus on digital as technology alone. It's the human value of technology that we can expect and anticipate from digital. So it's just really important to recognize and hold that thought that it's not the technology alone. And I think there's some themes as well, looking at other areas of that World Economic Forum research, that there's some really important changes this year that we've seen an acceleration in terms of the processes of digital impact at work. Changes to remote working or distributed working, as we've talked about. There's automation on the way, etc. And those seem to be overwhelming the importance of the responses of organizations to what's happening this year. So whilst skills are really important, and we've talked about upskilling and reskilling, and Amina's mentioned that, I think it's really important as well that the role of learning and development needs to be about helping organizations and the people that work in organizations, large and small, make sense of the world that's changing around them. So I think that theme of sense making from learning and development and connecting people is really, really important themes as well. Skills are fundamental and reskilling is fundamental, but I think we have a new role and an urgency to respond to helping people make sense of the environments they find themselves in. That might be sharing stories, it might be sharing data, it might be gathering evidence and reflecting that back. And I do think it's about helping organizations make the right connections as well. So I think that's a really important change that I've seen this year. That sort of sense making will become a really significant theme. And inevitably, I think there's a really important part of the way that learning and development will need to respond to what's happened this year and to the ongoing challenge to some of our most loved and fundamental tools. So I think Ed referenced this in the Q&A earlier. Someone asked about what will happen to the mix of classroom training and face-to-face events in the learning and development mix. And I think one of the things that I work with a lot of clients on, particularly in the last 4 or 5 years, but particularly in the 6 months of the last 6 months of this year, is trying to encourage, as has been this dramatic and quite uncomfortable switch, rapid change to digital, is to be careful not to try to replicate and reproduce the classroom experience digitally. It doesn't tend to work well. That, familiarity, comfort and warmth, those immediate conversations that we share in the face-to-face environment are very, very difficult to replicate online. And I think we need to be careful that as we shift programs or activity from what we would have normally done face-to-face and make those digital or bring those into a digital world, we need to be careful about meeting those objectives in different ways. And this may be about doing things over time, asynchronous events, using social tools, using notifications and nudges, shorter and smaller experiences that are linked loosely over time. These are the kinds of things that tend to work well and work best digitally. So I think it's a sort of a note of caution from me, I think, to be careful about replicating the real life event in the digital context. It doesn't always do what you would expect or hope. And I think one of the really interesting things that we're starting to see now is that we've sort of seen that this theme of learning in the flow of work or learning, through work. And I think now we're starting to see that learning actually is part of work. And you can see from that same research source, again, that 94% of business leaders expect workers to pick up skills on the job. And that's a huge growth from 64% only the year earlier or 2 years earlier. So what does that mean? What might that look like? If you can't go away from work to learn about work, then actually you'll start to expect, and we need to respond to organizations in different ways. So we need to build systems and tools. Perhaps tools is possibly the best way to think of this, that bring resources and information and contact that are always on and on demand, very much the way that consumer technologies and tools, and the apps on our phone work. We're starting to expect, I think, direct access to expertise as well. So once learning and development might put a facilitator or a classroom leader in front of the class to summarize expertise, etc. Now we can actually offer direct access to people who've done things before. It's a challenge, but it's quite an exciting opportunity, I think. There's a great opportunity to bring collaboration tools into the workplace and into learning experiences as well. And we've seen in this event alone, we're using WhatsApp as a way of keeping each other up to date. These are the kinds of things that people are starting to expect and that we need to respond to. I think we need to rely less on formal design. So I think one of the things that's been really interesting to see is the shift of learning and development teams from the impulse to offer programs and courses and systems, now thinking actually more about solutions, problem solving and tools as the ways and the resources that we offer to try and help organizations focus on the developing the right skills as they work. And I think there's an opportunity now as well, and an expectation to bring resources and connections and information and content from outside of organizations in, whether that's through curation or through subscription services, etc. But there's a real opportunity, and one of the things that digital enables us to do is to bring the outside in a very quick and scaled manner, which can help keep everybody up to date and keep everybody challenged and arguably inspired as well. And finally, I just wanted to. This is a theory that I have, and I'd love to get your views on this. I think this year we've seen a change almost in the sentiment or the emotional state, or what's motivating for learners and the skills that we would need for our personal development. So I'm thinking here about how do we grow, how do we make the best of ourselves in the workplace now. And I think we're starting to see, these themes of anxiety and fear becoming really important as motivators for us. How do I get through the day when I'm working at home, without distraction? How can I focus? I'm sat in the same chair every day, week after week. How can I make this work for myself? We've tended to feel, focus on personal growth, capability development as this great sort of positive opportunity. I wonder now this year whether we're going to have to focus on balancing those positive opportunities and that growth mindset with understanding that people are actually being motivated by some negative emotional factors as well. So whether that's anxiety or fear or nervousness or confusion or even just waiting. We're all waiting for a long time for many things. I think that I'd love to hear your thoughts on that, whether we need to start slightly shift what's motivating and interesting for people as well as we try and support people through the changes in the workplace. So those are some of the themes that I've seen over the last 6 to 9 months, and actually over the last few years. So I'll stop there, and Mehdi, I'll hand over to you, and we can open up for questions from here.
Great, Myles. Thank you very much. It was very useful. And the last slide that you showed let me thinking. To be honest, I was thinking about this interesting question because yes, the crisis of COVID-19 has changed a lot of things and make us think how we're going to rebuild all that we learned until now. So thank you very much. I will open the question and I will go back to you, Amina, please. I don't know if, Amina, you are hearing us?
Yes.
Amina? Okay, Amina.
Yes.
Okay, Amina. Thank you very much. I'm seeing Myles on the screen. Thank you very much, Amina. Amina, I have a question for you, please. You speak about the trends and you speak about different trends and skills like analytics, creativity, leadership. My question is, how do you ensure that you are actually preparing as an university? How are you ensuring that all these skills are well, realized by your students? How do you make the link between the university and the skills that you are teaching and training? Because I know that University Paris-Dauphine has also a continuing training and the initial training, so you have both of them. And how do you make, Amina, the links with the world of the work? Do you have, like a watch, a veil on the world of work? Please, Amina.
Thank you, Mehdi, for this question. So that's right. As you said, we have a veil on the trends. As Ed told in the introduction, so we need to stay curious, very curious, and to listen to our partners, to our colleagues, to be able to evaluate, because it's very hard to predict the future. However, it's very important to be aware, to try to adopt new formats, and we can see that the COVID crisis accelerates this tendency. And when we adopt the new formats, so we started looking for business partners, as I said in my presentation. So now we can find even in Tunisia new players that are adopting a new way of doing things, not based in diploma, not based on requirements, but based on the the reputation in the companies. So what we try to do is to partner these new players and try to have a new offer, new educational offer, and that works well. I mean, we started doing continuous training. So for the executive education, certificates for artificial intelligence, for data science, based on a technology platform, and this is something that works well.
Excellent. Very, very, very nice insight, Amina. Thank you very much, and for sure it will be very useful, and we're going to have opportunity to discuss more all this. Myles, please, I have a question for you. So I know that you are visiting many organizations and in different sectors. You are a consultant and you see different sector of activities. I would like to ask you, Myles, please, what strategy do you recommend to the learning and development department to address the future of work? Because you are going from different organizations, and for sure you have like a roadmap of a strategy. What do you think, Myles, please?
So I think, I beg your pardon, I think the most successful organizations or teams that I've worked with have been very diligent and work very hard to really go out into their organizations, whether this is through conversations or data analysis or kind of research, to understand what the most important problems are to solve. So I think one of the things that we need to do in that kind of performance consulting is be really clear what the business priorities are and understand how they work for the organization. But I think as things are changing so much now, we need to really be clear that we do what you might call, user research or audience research, workforce research, to understand what do those problems mean for the individuals and the teams in the organization. How do they manifest themselves? What are they finding it hard to do? What's most important and motivating for them? I think that's where I've seen organizations do really well, is where they're bringing the priorities of the organization together with solving the problems of the individual. And I think a lot of that now is around these themes of connections, sharing information, participating and feeling engaged. I think those are some of the most important problems that organizations are dealing with now. But I think it's that sense of matching the business priority with how those problems feel and what the motivations are for individuals.
Excellent. Excellent, Myles. Thank you, Amina. Thank you, Myles. Times is a little bit in a hurry, but I want to answer you another question. Amina, please, a very quick question. Okay, the skills are we have new skills, and actually, what are you doing for your staff? I mean, the teachers and the trainers. How also, because we are speaking about learning and development practitioners, professional, how we have to also, as a teacher, reskill our skills in order to be able to deliver the right skills to the student. Please, Amina.
So, Mehdi, you are asking questions for our teachers, right? How we upskill them, and there were a survey in US, and they asked kids, and they asked them, so what will make a teacher a great teacher? And the answer of the kids was a great teacher is not a teacher. So maybe for our professors, our teachers, it's very important to know that they are coaches. It's very important to know that, the most important thing is the path the student will have. The objective is not about grades, it's about preparing a student for the future. This is very important for us.
Excellent. Thank you, Amina. A final question also for Myles. Myles, because you are an expert on digital and we are speaking from this morning about digitization, how do you see the teams in the organization experience with transformation? Because transformation is a word that sometimes people resist to change. But how do you see that, Myles? And what could you advise us?
Yeah, it's a great question, Mehdi. I'll try and do it justice quickly. I think, the hardest thing about transformation and change is, if you do it properly, it's frightening. It is, because everything changes. And I think one of the things that we've seen in the last, many years with digital is that it's not, as I was saying at the outset, it's not just about the technology. It's not just about the tools. To do digital properly, to really change digitally, you need to change the ways you work, the skills you have, probably the people you bring in, how you take decisions, the data you analyze. It changes the way, the ways we behave. So I think if, you need to really be brave and embrace all of that to make it work well. And I think as you do embrace that to try and make it work well, you need to be really clear what you're trying to achieve as well. You need to set a good, strong purpose and understand, how you're making progress towards that purpose. So I think, where I've seen it work best is when people are brave about it and accept that it's difficult and it takes time and effort, but they're also quite clear about what they're trying to do usually in a medium or longer term. You set your vision, the hill you want to climb in the distance. So I think those are really important conditions to making digital change work well.
Excellent. Thank you very much, Myles. Please, Cedric, do we have any question from the chat for the participant or the delegates? Please, Cedric, you have the word.
Okay, thank you. Yes, we do have some questions from the participant. The first one is a question from Monk, who would like to know how Myles think that company doing a good job in allowing people to learn, actually. So that's the first question. And the second question is about what lasting change is COVID-19 going to have on corporate learning? What are going to be the legacy of COVID-19 on the learning culture within enterprises? Thank you. Those are the main questions that we had.
Excellent. Thank you, Cedric. And please, Amina, Myles, you have the word regarding these two questions, please.
Yes,
Amina,
of course.
you go first.
Okay, so can you see me?
Yes,
maybe to finish the answer for the last question. So even for teachers, we also need upscaling and rescaling. I think for technology-based techniques.
Okay.
Yeah, exactly. And let me start with the second question of Cedric. So for corporate, I think we will have the future of education. It will have new formats. Till now we saw an acceleration of the online courses, but we speak more and more about the spot, so small private online courses too. The other thing is that we will be seeing partnership between different players, actors in the educational sector. So we will have a new offer for companies, and as we noticed that more than 40% of employers will be encouraging their employees to reskill or upskill. So we will have a new market for this. And I love what Myles said in the beginning of his presentation. Learning is work right now.
Great. Thank you, Amina. Thank you for making the link with what Myles said. Please, Myles, do you want to add something regarding the different question that was asked?
Sure. Yeah, I'll try and do that quickly again. So I think to Ed's question, how are organizations allowing people to learn, or are we doing that well? I'd say that everybody's learning anyway. Everyone in organizations learns. We all learn all the time. We learn now with lots of tools and resources that are outside of the organization. We have, private WhatsApp groups in every team and every organization in the world. We all use YouTube. So I think the point is to you need to recognize that. I think one of the challenges for learning and development teams is to trust people to learn. To not try and control it all the time. Learning and development teams love to control people's learning, and they love to control the learning management system and make sure that people are finishing their programs and going on their courses. That's great and that helps, but we need to trust people and offer them the resources and the tools to help them solve their own problems as well. So I think there's an opportunity to do that. In terms of the kind of the post-COVID legacy, I suppose firstly I'm just hoping that there is a post-COVID one day. My fingers are crossed that will happen. Let's be optimistic. So I think it will. I think there's for learning and development, I think there's a challenge. So my experience has been that the L&D world loves classrooms. We love classrooms and we love courses, and we want to go back to them because we enjoy them. People enjoy going on them. We like to put them on. I think that so we need to be aware of that. Whether that's a good thing or a bad thing, I don't know. But I think there is an opportunity now to do more, though. And I think one of the things that I've seen over the last 6 to 9 months is that people have been very impressive in changing the ways they support organizations very, very quickly. So people have used existing resources and content. They've used the tools that they have to hand. And they've had to, the classrooms have closed. They've had to do something different and do it really, really quickly. And we now know that if you want to do it, you can do it quite well and really, satisfy and help organizations change. So I'm hoping that we can see more of that willingness to experiment, willingness to work with what we have, and I'm hoping that we don't then just revert to what we used to do, because I think there's an opportunity to do something quite different now.
Thank you. Thank you, Myles. It's really, okay, did you hear me? That's fine. I was just, reading some comments in the chat, and we have Catherine that said, my observation is that we are now moving towards designing programs for resilience. This is really important. Thank you, Catherine. And we have also Diana that said, considering all the innovation we need to introduce, passion to learn is critical for ourselves as learning and development, and not just supporting others to learn. Thank you, Diana, for your comments. Cedric, did you identify, probably, should I miss it, one question? Or we can just ask Amina, because now it is 1:07 GMT. And I would like to give to Amina and Myles. Please, Amina, 2 or 3 final words in a way of recommendation. We are in Africa, please, because this conference is learning and development in Africa. What will be your last recommendation? I will ask also this question to Myles in a few moments. Please, Amina.
So it's very hard to think very quickly. So maybe I will let Myles speak.
Okay.
Sorry, Amina. I was so passionate about my question that, I will, sorry for the question. But,
it's okay.
In coaching, we say when we do not have the answer now, it means that the question is really important. So you take it like this, and thank you for this, Amina. Please, Myles, and we go back to Amina. What is your final recommendation for learning and development in Africa? Please, Myles.
Okay, I think the sense of curiosity that I've seen in all the questions and comments, I think to keep that up, that curiosity to experiment, I think that's what we have an opportunity to do now, and I think everybody has that opportunity to try different things, maybe try them in small ways to see how they work, learn from that ourselves, and then move from there. So I'd say, be curious. And start some small experiments to see what you can do differently, and whether you're learning from that yourselves. Over to you now, Amina.
Yeah, so I just have
yes, Amina, do you have
times to think a little bit, but in my opinion, so for in Africa, it's very important. As I said before, we will have 12 million young graduates arriving every year on the labor market. So the traditional educational system has to evolve to be more inclusive. So my final word is about inclusive, skill-proved educational system. Again, so we can see new actors that are building on reputation and not on diploma or pre-requirements. So this is very important. So when we can reskill, upskill youth without pre-requirements for the future of work, so this is very important.
Thank you very much, Amina, and thank you
more inclusive education.
Thank you very much. It's 1:10 GMT. Cedric, what you would like to say, about the different points that Amina and Myles, do you have one or two things to say about all what you heard, please?
Yes, I think, thank you. It's all about starting somewhere and not be just observers. So I think that from what they have shared, corporate development and learning practitioners need to start somewhere, be innovative and reiterate the process and learn on the go. And from what Amina has also shared, it's very important to develop partnership and inclusivity. I think at the level of inclusivity, we can look at the component of women being more diverse and also including a diverse group of people and minority. And she also highlight the need not to focus too much again on diploma, but more on reputation. So those are the key highlights that our participants have shared. We do hope that those who have followed have got some new tips to improve into their practice. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Cedric, for this summarize. And I will finish this fantastic discussion. I want, because time is here, but I can spend much more time with both of you. So curiosity, do differently, be more inclusive, skill proven, and reskill, upskill. I think that even if you are in a university or as a consultant, we as a learning and development, we have a key role players in the future in Africa in order to support all the change that we are facing actually. Thank you very much, Amina. Thank you very much, Myles. Thank you very much, Cedric, for this conversation, discussion. And I invite you to leave this session, so the breakout room number 5, so we can go in the next session, which is ramming up. Thank you very much. Everything was the wrong technique. And see you now. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you, Mehdi. Thanks very much, Mehdi and Cedric.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.